Our story begins with a spectacular scene. Both of our main protagonists are stuck in a jungle. Yes, I repeat, they're stuck in a jungle, and they're looking for consumable water to drink. The male lead is a dark-haired, incredibly handsome Korean named Kang Ha-jun, the CEO of Hain Company. Furthermore, our female lead is his secretary. Now imagine that. A CEO and his secretary are stuck in an unknown jungle region in Banten, Indonesia. But how do our two protagonists end up in this sticky situation? Our next scene is the beginning of the background story, leading up to their predicament. We discover that Hain Company is an affiliate company under the Jugang Electronics Group. Furthermore, it is due to the hard work of our Kang Ha-jun that the company is making leaps in the technology industry. However, we also discover that the secretary office is the one that does most of the work at Hain Company. Ms. Mo, our female protagonist, is only a junior secretary and is therefore not exempt from this immense workload. We also find out that Ms. Mo and the CEO rarely even see each other in the office. In fact, she's actually quite intimidated by our Kang Ha-jun because of how demanding he is at work. That man sometimes can act like a cyborg or an alien, although she's not saying she's the one that comes up with the nicknames, even though they fit him perfectly. It so happens that CEO Kang is taking a business trip to Indonesia in what will be a big occasion for the company. However, for the staff at the secretary office, it also means that they will be able to leave work on time. That's such a big relief, considering how late they usually leave work when Mr. Kang is around. Our female lead is obviously excited by this occasion as well. She's so relieved to be able to leave work on time. Unfortunately, here comes the huge plot twist. Our Kang Ha-jun calls her through the office phone and asks for a strange favor. He asks our Miss Mo to secretly book a flight to Jakarta, Indonesia as soon as possible. But what is the meaning of all this? Doesn't this man realize what he's doing? Our poor female lead's weekend plans of relaxation are going down the drain. Honestly, she can't believe what is going on. This unexpected turn of events means Miss Mo isn't able to eat out with her fellow secretariats. She is a bit comforted by the delicious food she eats in the plane. However, at the same time, she's in a dilemma. We discover that Ms. Mo suffers from aerophobia, but it's not as bad as before. But then it begs the question, why exactly does Mr. Kang want her to fly to Indonesia? Can you believe that it's because he wants Ms. Mo to deliver his tumbler to him? Our Ms. Mo's weekend plans are in ruins because her boss needs his beverage cup. Now, doesn't that sound utterly insane? Our tale continues with an interesting scene. It appears our female lead, Ms. Mo, is convinced that Mr. Kang suffers from a variation of blanket syndrome. But in this case, it's an excessive attachment to his tumbler. That's the only sensible conclusion she can come up with. Because let's be real, who tells someone to fly into another country all for the sake of a tumbler? Why does it have to be her? Miss Mo has to deal with her aerophobia in order to give Mr. Kang his precious tumbler. That sounds absolutely maddening, doesn't it? Her arrival in Jakarta leads her to find a man named Hwan, as per her boss's instructions, who is to direct her to Kang Ha-jun himself. However, to her surprise, the location isn't a luxury hotel as she presumes, but a wasteland. And lo and behold, Mr. Kang majestically arrives in a helicopter, personally coming to thank her for the assistance. This really surprises our female lead, and we discover that since 2 years ago when she joined Hain Company, Mr. Kang has barely taken note of her. Miss Mo feels the gulf in class and position between both of them by merely being in his presence. In fact, he says he will grant any request she wants as long as it's not an absurd one. Miss Mo is touched by this and wants him to have his precious tumbler. However, to her surprise, he says he doesn't want to receive it in the wasteland. Is he a bit embarrassed of his attachment? However, we discover that, much to Miss Mo's horror, Mr. Kang wants her to get on the helicopter. It seems he wants them to go somewhere else before he receives his beverage cup. Unfortunately, our female lead's aerophobia will not allow her to get into a helicopter at all. She can't even move her feet at this point. In fact, hearing that he is the one driving the helicopter doesn't settle her nerves at all, even if he has a license. Despite Ms. Mo trying to talk him out of taking her along, all of her attempts are effectively countered by Mr. Kang. However, this doesn't change the fact that she's too afraid to step into the helicopter. Why does she have to be the one to pick up the phone at the office? Why is it her that has to give him the tumbler? At that moment, Mr. Kang remarkably sweeps Ms. Mo off her feet, leaving her incredibly flustered. He gets the wrong idea she can't get in because of her clothes, which couldn't be any farther from the truth. But our female lead is too afraid to tell him the truth. Her aerophobia is at an all-time high. Can someone get her off the helicopter? As our female lead travels in the helicopter with CEO Kang, we see that her aerophobia isn't easing up at all. In fact, the fact she can directly see through the windows at the ground below is making her fear of flying even worse. Our Miss Mo feels like throwing up at this point. Can someone get her out of this helicopter? Her unease doesn't go unnoticed by our male lead, who realizes she is suffering from aerophobia. Furthermore, he tries to help Miss Mo in alleviating her feelings of aerophobia, which actually works when he tells her to stare anywhere else but down or stare at him. Our junior secretary lady chooses to look at him and actually feels better, until she realizes she's staring at him for too long, taking in his handsome facial features. What an embarrassing moment. However, our CEO doesn't say more on it. Their conversation diverts to Ms. Mo's aerophobia, in which Mr. Kang tells her that she has to overcome her fear by facing it. Obviously, Ms. Mo doesn't agree. Not everyone is so skilled and talented like Mr. Kang after all. In fact, she goes as far as to compare her aerophobia to our male leading protagonist's attachment to his beverage cup. However, their conversation is interrupted when the helicopter suddenly spirals out of control. We find out that the helicopter controls are faulty and may have been sabotaged. In fact, Mr. Kang tells our female lead that they have to get out of the helicopter immediately. But wait, aren't they really high up in the sky? Nonetheless, our Ms. Mo isn't having any of it. She's frightened out of her mind and hears her incredibly handsome boss telling her to jump out of an out-of-control helicopter. And also, when Mr. Kang asks her to throw away her bag, she says she can't. We discover that it is because the CEO's tumbler is in the bag, and even if it's risking their lives, she doesn't plan on letting it go. But astonishingly, our Kang Ha-jun doesn't hesitate to snatch the bag out of her hands and throw it out of the helicopter. Ms. Mo can't believe her eyes. Why did he just throw away his precious tumbler? How could he just throw away something he cares so much about? However, she can't finish her words as Mr. Kang pulls her into his arms and jumps out of the helicopter into the sea of water below. We start with a strange scene of Ms. Mo's funeral. We see members of her secretary office and her younger brother, Yeonwoo, lamenting over her passing. Her trip to Jakarta is mistaken as a weekend vacation stay, even though that's not the case. However, we come to realize that these events are part of a dream made up in our female lead's head. We see Kang Ha-jun desperately applying CPR techniques to try and revive the unconscious Ms. Mo. Fortunately, he manages to succeed, but our junior secretary mistakes her revival as heaven. But as Kang Ha-jun calls out to her, she finally opens her eyes. Furthermore, he manages to convince her that she is still alive. Our Ms. Mo sure is one deep dreamer, isn't she? Our female lead finally remembers the helicopter sabotage that caused CEO Kang to jump out of the aircraft with her. The fact she's still breathing certainly means that her boss saved her life by swimming them both to shore. But that also means he technically kissed her when delivering CPR. The realization leaves our junior secretary completely flustered. However, she comes to realize that her shoes and rubber band are lost in the sea. Honestly, she is very upset by the entire situation. The only reason she is in this mess is because of Kang Ha-jun asking her to help bring his tumbler. In fact, she just wishes to go back home now. But unfortunately, there's a big problem with that wish of hers. Our Kang Ha-jun delivers the devastating news to her. They are lost in a jungle, having not even the slightest idea where they are. What's going to happen to our two leading protagonists now? The tale proceeds from the same place, being that our Ms. Mo and CEO Kang Ha-jun are lost at the shore of a jungle island. We discover they have no phone or any other means of communication to tell anyone where they are. Kang Ha-jun says he isn't with a phone because he believes he is being followed. In fact, he has reason to believe the helicopter sabotage was done with the intention to hurt him. However, it's not for any bad deeds that our male lead may have committed. Rather, even the CEO of Hain Company has no idea why someone is after his life. He doesn't even have a clue of who the culprit is either, but surely intends to find out who they are as soon as they get back to Jakarta. However, there's more pressing issues at hand. How on earth are they going to get back to Jakarta? We discover that even Hyun's personal assistant, Miss Han, doesn't have a clue where he is, because he doesn't tell her about his whereabouts. Our female lead is very frustrated by Kang Ha-jun's actions. More so, she's even more annoyed as he continues to show nonchalance for his mistakes that lead them to their current stranded situation. In fact, this man can't even muster up a simple apology. But despite his thick-headedness, our Miss Mo can't help but pity Mr. Kang, seeing how helpless he looks in this situation. Furthermore, she has to pull herself together in order to ensure that they both survive. We discover that Miss Mo watches a forest survival show called The Jungle's Law and intends to use the knowledge she has from the show to help them survive. With that knowledge, she discovers a tree full of cherry guava fruits for them to eat. However, a problem arises for our Lady Mo. She can't seem to take her eyes off the CEO of Hain Company. Technically, that guy shared a kiss with her. Her first kiss as well. Our hopeless female lead can't help but think about that. Despite being stranded on a jungle island, Ms. Mo is so lost in her dream world that she doesn't hear Mr. Kang asking her about the taste of the cherry guavas. However, she can't help but be flustered around him. It doesn't help when the man keeps getting into her personal space, even though it's unintentional. Or is it really unintentional? Kang Ha-jun, out of nowhere, suddenly tells our female lead that she looks pretty with her hair let down. Ms. Mo Yun-hee can't even believe what is happening. Furthermore, she can't even muster any words in reply to his compliment. Consequently, Mr. Kang starts to feel awkward about his words, thinking he is making her feel uncomfortable. However, our Mo Yun-hee tries to persuade him otherwise. Being so flustered, she starts to hurt out words that make little sense in an attempt to make him feel better, and also to get him to compliment her more. Fortunately for her, it seems her plan is going to work. Kang Ha-jun does find her very pretty after all. To clear the awkward atmosphere, our female lead reminds Mr. Kang that they should be trying to get the cherry guavas from the tree. But she doesn't get to finish her statement as something very serious occurs. Our Mo Yun-hee has suddenly lost consciousness. What could be going on with her? Our scene begins with our male lead, Kang Ha-jun, catching Mo Yun-hee, his secretary, before she falls to the ground. We discover that it is because she is very dizzy due to dehydration. She can barely even stand and has to take a seat to feel slightly better. However, that means that the responsibility of picking the cherry guavas from the tree falls on CEO Kang's shoulders. Seriously, the trees look very tall. Can he even climb a tree? Miss Mo flatters Kang Ha-jun to the point he's actually motivated enough to try to get the cherry guavas. But there's only so much flattery that can get done. Sure, Kang Ha-jun is strong, but he isn't strong enough to shake the cherry guavas off the tree like he's currently doing. Why is he even trying to shake the guavas out of the tree? He can't even climb the tree either. Kang Ha-jun soon loses morale and blatantly says he can't get the cherry guavas. In fact, he completely gives up and says they should find something else to eat. However, our Mo Yun-hee continues to try and spur him on, completely playing on our CEO's insecurities regarding his ability to survive alone. Unfortunately, all the motivation comes to waste. He can't climb the tree, and he isn't strong enough to shake the cherry guavas out of it. Why is he doing that anyway? This is a completely hopeless situation. At this point, our two protagonists will starve till kingdom come. At this point, our favorite junior secretary decides to take matters into her own hands. After adjusting her skirt a bit, she is able to move a bit more freely and asks Kang Ha-jun to carry her on his shoulders. Initially, Kang Ha-jun is completely against it, but it isn't because he is her boss. Rather, he's afraid she will get hurt if he tries to carry her that way. However, our Mo Yun-hee isn't having any of that. If they don't get those cherry guavas, she will likely faint due to dehydration, or worse. After a dramatic scene of both Mr. Kang and Miss Mo trying to maintain balance, they're both able to adjust in their new position to get the guavas. Mo Yun-hee doesn't waste any time and starts to eat the guavas as soon as she picks them from the tree. Even despite Kang Ha-jun's concerns that they might be contaminated, she doesn't care. She does eventually pick others for both of them to eat from later. However, we discover that our Yeon-hee has eaten so much guavas that the juice is all over her mouth, much to her embarrassment. Even more embarrassing for her is when her boss Kang Ha-jun decides to help her clean it himself. Furthermore, after much resistance by Miss Mo, Mr. Kang wipes off the juice from her lips with his thumb. It's an intense moment that leaves our two protagonists speechless as they look into each other's eyes. Our two protagonists stare each other in the eyes until Kang Ha-jun decides to break away and change the topic. He seems to be concerned about the product demonstration. However, his change of topic isn't taken well by our Mo Yeon-hee. She's also concerned about her brother. If not that the CEO asked her to bring his tumbler, she would be enjoying her weekend break at this point in time. We see that their conversation actually breaks down into an argument. However, Kang Ha-jun tries to end the discussion, telling Mo Yeon-hee that they need to go to shore. Rather unfortunately, it seems that their journey back to shore becomes very complicated. They can't see any of their footsteps, which means they can't trace their way back to shore. Despite their earlier quarreling, it seems that the Hain Company CEO is still concerned about how his junior secretary is handling the situation. However, Mo Yeon-hee clarifies to him that she's doing okay. It is at this moment that our dear Kang Ha-jun realizes that his secretary has been walking around barefooted all this time. He immediately offers to give her his shoes. Despite Mo Yeon-hee's reluctance, he helps her wear his shoes. Left speechless by his act of kindness, Miss Mo decides to ask her boss a question. If this man can be so kind, then why did he do what he did to her 2 years ago? Why did he completely ignore her presence when she came to greet him after getting employed at Hain Company 2 years ago? In fact, our female lead still remembers he had tea with Miss Jung, her fellow junior secretary, when she went to greet him. Does he have preferential treatment towards some people? However, Mr. Kang clarifies that Miss Jung is the daughter of his college mentor, which is why he had tea with her. He doesn't believe in preferential treatment. In fact, as Miss Mo asks why he asked her to help deliver his precious tumbler, he tells her that it is because he thinks she is competent enough. It is clear the man doesn't want to go into any details and so ends the conversation there. But how does our Mo Yeon-hee feel? She has been holding this against her CEO for the past 2 years. However, after hearing what Kang Ha-jun says, she feels a lot better. But why is that so? Is it because he is helping her wear his shoes, or because of something else? Is it because of something she doesn't dare to confess? Notwithstanding, we discover that Miss Mo has come up with a plan to help their current situation. She can climb up a tree now that she feels better and try to discover their current location from shore. Despite Mr. Kang's concerns, we see that Mo Yeon-hee is actually very adept at tree climbing because of her rock climbing hobby. However, it also means she temporarily has to put off the shoes. Despite the initial worry, we discover that Kang Ha-jun can't help but be amazed by our female lead. According to him, she is still the same as 7 years ago. We see a flashback at a Jugang Group youth support event that Kang Ha-jun attends with his father. The highlight of this event is the scholarship student who is going to perform a poem. We discover that this student is in fact a younger Mo Yeon-hee. This is the first time that our Kang Ha-jun sees Mo Yeon-hee. We discover that Kang Ha-jun's first impression of Mo Yeon-hee is not a good one at all. To him, her poetry recitation is a very ridiculous one, and therefore she is merely an attention-seeking flatterer. We discover that Miss Mo's employment is also as a result of Jugang Electronics Group swapping for one of Hain Company's well-trained employees in an employee exchange agreement. This discovery isn't taken well by CEO Kang at all, causing him to prevent any further employee exchanges between the companies. To our Kang Ha-jun, it feels like his father is still trying to have a say in how he runs the Hain Company. However, during one of Hain Company's dinners, Kang Ha-jun discovers that Mo Yeon-hee will not be attending because of discrimination against her in the secretary office. Furthermore, he discovers that she can't attend because her disabled brother, Yeon-woo, hurt his hand, preventing him from using his electric chair. Consequently, he discovers that Yeonwoo is her only living relative, seeing that both of their parents have passed away. These two discoveries made Kang Ha-jun realize that he has been seeing Miss Mo in a bad way. He comes to realize that he is wrong for how he interpreted her poem and her personality. Her actions only have one purpose, and that is to keep surviving this cruel world. But it seems the damage had already been done. Mo Yeon-hee doesn't attend company dinners and never tries to stand out in the company. However, our Kang Ha-jun is relieved that after the past 7 years, he is able to see Miss Mo smile again, even though it's because they're both stranded in an unknown jungle. However, Mr. Kang is brought out of his daydreams by Mo Yeon-hee as she is still on the tree. She is able to see the way to the shore. But our Kang Ha-jun is more concerned about her position on the tree and urges her to come down. Ms. Mo actually almost falls down from the tree, but manages to grip hold of one of the branches in the nick of time. Mr. Kang can't believe what's happening to him. Why is he so concerned about Miss Mo falling from the tree? Our poor CEO can't really understand his emotions. Notwithstanding, Secretary Mo Yeon-hee doesn't make his situation better when she checks him for a fever, seeing as he looks very pale. His heart feels like it's going to explode. Even as they make their way to the shore, our dear CEO is hopelessly perplexed about his emotions. Just staring at Miss Diller, Mo is making his heart race. But what does this mean? How is Mo Yeon-hee making him feel like this? Our scene starts at the shore of the jungle island, with our two leading protagonists present. They have finally made it back to the shore at last, something that makes Miss Mo very happy. However, there seems to be something wrong with Mr. Kang. He suddenly starts to act very distant with Mo Yeon-hee. He even says he doesn't like empathizing with the pains of others. We discover that Kang Ha-jun has an obsession with success. He doesn't want to care about anything else but to succeed in whatever he does. However, he still can't understand why things are different with Secretary Mo. Why did he care so much when she almost fell from the tree? Why does he concern himself so much with worrying about her well-being? Our poor CEO is absolutely clueless about his emotions, isn't he? On the other side, we see Mo Yeon-hee absolutely fawning over Kang Ha-jun, who is oblivious to all this. But shouldn't they worry about more pressing issues? They still don't have sufficient food, and with the night fast approaching, they really need to find a good place to sleep. In fact, shouldn't our secretary be very concerned about getting back to Jakarta soon? No one knows that she's in Indonesia in the first place. Yes, Miss Mo decides to focus on those issues and not on how handsome Kang Ha-jun looks, while idly picking up seashells. She starts off by telling Mr. Kang to start a fire. However, the man has no idea how to. Even despite another of her motivation-inspiring moments of flattery, we see that Kang Ha-jun isn't able to procure flames from the sticks through use of friction. He says they should wait until tomorrow and just manage to sleep without any fire. However, we discover that Mo Yeon-hee does this on purpose. Along with being unable to start a fire, Mr. Kang can't do any other thing necessary for them to survive. Like seriously, the man can't fish, pick cherry guavas, or climb a tree. She shows him that outside the city environment, he can't survive the way she can. Furthermore, she shows him that he needs her help in order to get back to Jakarta. And for that to happen, Kang Ha-jun has to forget that he is her boss and listen to her opinions as the better survivor. We see a flashback of Mo Yeon-hee and her younger brother, Yeonwoo, after the passing of their parents. We see how they're uncared for by their auntie, who even wants to send them to an orphanage. Eventually, their auntie leaves them to fend for themselves alone. And ever since then, our Mo Yeon-hee has been taking care of herself and Yeonwoo, ensuring they survive every day. Back to the scene at the seashore before the jungle, we see Secretary Mo Yeon-hee telling CEO Kang about her survival skills. And given the fact that she is far more capable than he is out here in the jungle, she gives him a condition to ensure both of them survive. Kang Ha-jun has to accept Mo Yeon-hee as the leader between both of them. But will our CEO actually be willing to do that? We see Kang Ha-jun and Mo Yeon-hee still deliberating how they plan on surviving. More importantly, it seems that our Mo Yeon-hee really intends on being the leader between the two of them, seeing as she is more competent in this situation. Remarkably, she goes as far as verbally renouncing her job as secretary to Kang Ha-jun to ensure he takes her words seriously. Eventually, despite much hesitance and unwillingness on his part, Mr. Kang finds himself submitting to Ms. Mo's will. The first task she has for him is to find firewood in order for her to start a fire. He does it fairly quickly enough, but realizes he's getting carried away by everything going on here. Our Kang Ha-jun is worried about what is happening with Hein Company at the APEC conference. Furthermore, the conference is just really a cover-up for why he's actually in Indonesia. He has to sign a huge contract deal for a mineral that is a very important component to the new technological product to be released by the Jugang Group. We see a past memory belonging to CEO Kang Ha-jun that explains his motive for coming to Indonesia in the first place. It appears that the bauxite mineral to be used in making the new product is not going to be provided by their suppliers anymore. We discover that someone is trying to interrupt Hein Company's bauxite importation. It is such a big deal that even Ha-jun's father, Kang Chan-soo, the head of the Jugang Group, is concerned. He orders Ha-jun's elder brother, Kang Sung-jun, to help Hein Company resolve their bauxite problem. However, despite his brother seemingly willing to help him, Ha-jun doubts his intentions. In fact, we see that CEO Ha-jun has a strong reason to believe that his brother, Kang Sung-jun, is the one conspiring to ensure Hein Company's downfall. His actions are certainly suspicious as well, and seem to only make the situation worse for Hein Company. Of course, CEO Kang Ha-jun of Hein Company isn't going to let Kang Sung-jun have his way. In his attempt to save the company, we see that Mr. Kang uses the APEC conference as a front to explore a mine in Sumatra, Indonesia, since they're in the same area. We also discover that his precious tumbler actually contains a bauxite purity tester that will help in assessing the quality of the bauxite in the mine. We also find out that the reason he kept it in the tumbler is so no one will discover the real reason he is in Indonesia. In fact, the true reason he picks our dear Mo Yun-hee to deliver the tumbler to him is because she is someone that doesn't stand out in the company. It all seems like a perfectly hatched plan by our brilliant CEO, doesn't it? So where did everything go wrong? Kang Ha-jun is concerned by how he ended up in this current situation. He can't help but wonder if his elder brother hates him so much as to try and hurt him in a foreign country. We discover that while deep in thought, Mr. Kang has gathered a lot of firewood. This realization is something that initially makes him proud. At least Miss Mo will be very impressed with him. However, we see that he doesn't understand why he feels this way about a junior secretary in his company. Kang Ha-jun feels so grateful and apologetic to Mo Yun-hee at the same time, and he does find her very beautiful. However, our Mo Yun-hee is flustered to the point she can't even look him in the eyes. Notwithstanding, Mr. Kang does manage to let her look at him when he brushes his fingers against her face so intimately. Even as the flustered Miss Mo asks what he's doing, our hopeless male lead can't give her a definite answer. Nonetheless, he still has something to say to her. CEO Kang Ha-jun gives a sincere apology to his junior secretary. Remarkably, he takes full blame for all the events that led to them being stranded on this jungle island. In fact, he's genuinely begging for her forgiveness. This seems too good to be real for our female protagonist. The highly demanding, seemingly arrogant CEO Kang Ha-jun of Hein Company was apologizing to her. Could this man really have a change of heart in such a short period of time? Fortunately for him, Secretary Mo does accept his apology. We see that nighttime eventually falls upon the jungle island, and both of our leading protagonists are having a hard time falling asleep. Kang Ha-jun uses this opportunity to ask Miss Mo what she wants as compensation for him dragging her out to Indonesia. He goes as far as to ask for what she wishes most. For sure, this rich CEO can make that wish come true, can't he? We discover that Mo Yun-hee's biggest wish is to have a house where her disabled younger brother, Yeonwoo, can live more comfortably and healthily. We discover that due to Yeonwoo needing to use a wheelchair at all times, the house Mo Yun-hee and Yeonwoo live in is on the first floor. Furthermore, the living conditions of the house aren't good for her younger brother's condition, because he has had weak lungs ever since the accident that crippled his legs. And can you believe that Kang Ha-jun is willing to buy a more comfortable house for Mo Yeon-hee and her brother? Not only because he wants to compensate her, but also because it's something she really desires. He promises to do this for her as long as they make it out of the jungle and as long as she doesn't leave him behind. We discover that Mr. Kang is actually hurt by his inability to be of help to Ms. Mo. In order to cheer him up, our dear secretary suggests they play the word chain game, where the loser will be flicked in the forehead by the victor. We see that CEO Kang loses the first round due to his inexperience, earning him a painful flick in the head from Mo Yeon-hee. However, that only seems to spur his competitive spirit. As they continue the game, it seems like our Mo Yeon-hee is going to lose and get flicked in the head. But at the last moment, she says the words that saves her from a painful fate. Kiss! However, that only creates a tense atmosphere between our two protagonists, who are now flustered, staring at each other in silence. We see that both Kang Ha-jun and Mo Yeon-hee are so flustered that they don't know what to say. Why did Miss Mo have to say kiss of all words? As a consequence, Ha-jun decides to end the word chain game and they rush to go to sleep. These two hopeless individuals will do anything to spare themselves from embarrassment, won't they? However, we see that while Mo Yeon-hee manages to fall asleep, our CEO Ha-jun is finding it very hard. Of course, he isn't used to sleeping on such a hard surface as the shore. His lack of sleep causes him to ponder about his biggest concern. Who is the person that sabotaged his helicopter? We discover that the people Mr. Kang suspects would try to harm him are all his family members. He believes it's either his elder brother, his stepmother, or his father. It really all sounds absurd to hear, doesn't it? Could one of Ha-jun's family members really be the ones that tried to hurt him? We see that Kang Ha-jun is at least grateful he isn't stranded alone on the jungle island. In fact, he believes that he owes his ability to survive to Mo Yeon-hee's capabilities. However, at that moment, Mr. Kang hears his secretary groan in her sleep. We discover that Mo Yeon-hee is having a nightmare. And it's not just an ordinary nightmare, but a recollection of an old, tragic memory. We are shown how Ms. Mo lost her parents in a plane crash, as well as how Yeonwoo became crippled. We see that Mo Yeon-hee's decision of wanting to sit by the window instead of allowing her younger brother to sit there still haunts her till this day. In truth, it seems she blames herself for Yeonwoo becoming a cripple. Back with Kang Ha-jun, we see how worried he is about Mo Yeon-hee. Her temperature is alarmingly rising, and she isn't even waking up despite him yelling her name. Ms. Mo suddenly yells her younger brother's name, jumping into Ha-jun's arms and giving him a tight embrace. Furthermore, we see how frightened she is with her entire body trembling. She doesn't stop trembling until Mr. Kang trembles her tightly, who can't bear to see her suffering. Consequently, our CEO feels his heart moving faster than a speeding bullet, seeing how close he is to his secretary. And finally, it seems he finally realizes what is going on with him. Our hopeless CEO finally realizes that he may be in love with Mo Yeon-hee. We see our hopeless Kang Ha-jun still staring at the sleeping Miss Mo in his arms. His heart is still racing at a ridiculous tempo just by being so close to her. To rid himself of this situation, he opts to wake up his sleeping secretary. After several gentle attempts, he finally has to scream out Ms. Mo's name before she startles awake. However, Mo Yeon-hee initially misunderstands the situation. Seeing how close Mr. Kang is to her, she assumes he tried something mischievous. Fortunately, he is able to explain everything to her, about her nightmare and about Yeonwoo. Yeon-hee does tell Ha-jun about her brother and how important he is to her. He's the real reason she's so desperate to get back home. We see that Kang Ha-jun is a bit depressed. He envies that Miss Mo is on good terms with her sole family member, unlike his own family situation. Even as Mo Yeon-hee talks about how she envies how successful his family is, Ha-jun isn't moved. Instead, he tells her to go sit by the fire to heat herself up. However, that is when they discover that the fire is dying out. Kang Ha-jun does a good job preserving the fire, but unfortunately, his moment of glory is snuffed out. Quite literally, his glory is snuffed out because rain starts to pour down and puts out their campfire. In fact, we see that the rain is falling so heavily that they have to take shelter in the remains of the helicopter. We see that their clothes are wet from the rain. Kang Hajun offers Mo Yunhee his shirt to dry herself, but we find out he is not handling the cold well at all. Furthermore, he's so saddened by how useless he is. Funny enough, he's so cold that tears can't roll down his face. Seeing as there's no other option, the two decide to stay close in order to keep each other warm. Our Ms. Mo is the first to act as she pulls Kang Hajun into an embrace before our CEO pulls her even closer. More noteworthy is that, despite the initial urge to complain, we see that Mo Yunhee is enjoying Hajun's close company. In fact, her heart is racing just by being so close to him. It seems that our two protagonists are getting closer with every minute they spend in this jungle. But when will they admit their true feelings for one another? Enjoying this story so far? Comment jungle below for part 2. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, ciao!